Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. Get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio to lose weight for the last time. Visit myphdweightloss.com. The Democrat National Convention last night wrapped things up with a rousing speech to an enthusiastic crowd from Vice President Kamala Harris as she accepted her party's nomination for President of the United States. We have the highlights for you. In a 5-4 ruling yesterday, the Supreme Court gave a partial victory to Republicans trying to enforce proof of citizenship when voting in Arizona. This case could have ramifications across the country. Meanwhile, the Ohio Secretary of State's office referred 138 non-U.S. citizens who were found on registered voter rolls to the state's Attorney General's office for prosecution. And the Arkansas Supreme Court has rejected an abortion rights ballot initiative as pro-abortion organizations are racing toward deadlines to get these initiatives on the ballots for November. Target CEO blasts Kamala's claim that retailers are price gouging and lays out the defense of his company and others.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Vice President Kamala Harris called for a new way forward for the United States in her speech to the Democrat National Convention last night.
Our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward. Not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans. And let me say, I know there are people of various political views watching tonight, and I want you to know, I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me to put country above party and self, to hold sacred America's fundamental principles, from the rule of law to free and fair elections to the peaceful transfer of power.
The Vice President spent a lot of time talking about her personal background. She paid tribute to her mother and also used the speech to attack former President Trump, of course, and his agenda, saying that Trump is not a serious man, but the consequences of putting him back in power, she said, is extremely serious, accusing Trump of sending an armed mob on January 6th to prevent a peaceful transfer of power.
Fellow Americans, this election is not only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation. In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Consider not only the chaos and calamity when he was in office, but also the gravity of what has happened since he lost the last election. Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol, where they assaulted law enforcement officers. When politicians in his own party begged him to to call off the mob and send help, he did the opposite. He fanned the flames. And now, for an entirely different set of crimes, he was found guilty of fraud by a jury of everyday Americans and separately found liable for committing sexual abuse. And consider what he intends to do if we give him power again.
Kamala Harris went on to warn of the evils of what a second Trump administration would be.
Consider the power he will have, especially after the United States Supreme Court just ruled that he would be immune from criminal prosecution. Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails, and how he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States, not to improve your life, not to strengthen our national security, but to serve the only client he has ever had, himself.
Wow. She has some nerve, doesn't she? She spent almost 4 years serving with one of the biggest crooks who's ever lived in the White House. Wonder what the tough-on-crime prosecutor, Kamala Harris, would have done if she had been given the case against Hunter Biden selling access to his father. How can Harris pretend the Biden crime family is only interested in the best interest of our country? How could she have sat beside Joe Biden for the last 3.5 years and ignored what has been going on around him and his family? It's real simple. It's easy to look the other way when you're Kamala Harris, when you are wanting to promote yourself, your own best interest. It's easy to look the other way when Joe Biden gives you the biggest platform you've ever had in your life, allows you to be his vice president, and boy, did that turn out okay for her. Now, without receiving a single Democrat vote, without ever winning a Democrat primary, she is the Democrat nominee for president of the United States. Only in our modern America could this be happening. Only in this great country of ours could we have a woman like Kamala Harris, who hasn't received any votes, but stood there last night and accepted the nomination of her party. And they were dumb enough to do it. They were dumb enough to sit back and allow it to happen. Yesterday, there was a big discussion about Nancy Pelosi and the role that she played in pushing Joe Biden out of the process. She claims that she did not intend to push Joe Biden out and that she had hoped that there would be an open nominating process, but admitted that Kamala had quickly seized the opportunity, and before Pelosi and the powers that be in the Democrat Party could push it towards a process at the Democrat National Convention where they would actually get to vote, that Harris was able to tear it away from them so quickly that it got out of their control. You must understand this and believe Kamala Harris when she tells you who she is. Kamala Harris made it very clear. She drew the line saying on issues like life that those of us who believe in life, that we're out of our minds. That's what she said. Kamala Harris is going to keep the abortion debate front and center. This will be a main platform because she believes this can be a wedge issue that she can dupe enough women around the country to rally behind her. Listen to her as she describes what she thinks and trying to scare women in the Democrat National Convention last night of what Donald Trump will do as abortion, when he has said very clearly that he will not support a national ban on abortion, that he wants it to be left at the states. But just as other speakers all week have claimed, she misrepresented Donald Trump's position, saying that he would enforce a national ban on abortion. Finally, Kamala Harris made her stance on Israel very clear. She claims that she will always support the right of Israel to defend its borders, but she sent a message loud and clear to the Palestinian people. She will support them too.
What has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
Wow, if that doesn't motivate you to get out and work for a Trump victory in November, nothing will. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Firmin Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Soon going to be 4 years ago that I started my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, I might add, and I've been able to maintain that for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years coming up in July. If this is the year that you have decided that you're going to get healthy, that you're going to lose that weight, that visceral fat that's so damaging around your waist, then now's the time to start. Let me encourage you to make that call today. 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation with PhD weight loss and nutritionist. Boy, am I glad that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago and that she got me on the right path to getting healthy. You're going to be able to do things that you may have thought you'd never be able to do again. Play with the kids, the grandkids, be able to hike and walk and maybe play a full 18-round hole of golf and be able to do it and not get so winded. Because when you take that excess weight off, you're just going to feel better. You're going to be able to focus. You're going to be able to sleep better. Your overall health is just going to be improved. 864-252-4925. Call, set up your initial consultation. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. Some of the speakers who were center stage during the final night of the Democrat National Convention kind of tells you a lot about the Democrat Party today, right? I mean, we can kind of look at the entire week of who the people that they put behind the microphone, what they represent, and just what the party's all about these days. The president of the largest teacher union, for example, who was mocked over the weekend for giving an off-the-rails speech, spoke at the Democrat National Convention last night. Rebecca Becky Pringle is her name. Delivered a viral speech in July that drew intense criticism, spoke at the National Convention last night of the Democrats in Chicago. During the National Education Association's annual meeting and Representative Assembly in Philadelphia just last month, Pringle called for transformative social justice change in the education system in the pursuit of equity. Now, just think about some of the buzzwords in that sentence I just read to you. Pringle called for transformative social justice in the education system as she and her colleagues pursue equity. It's all about social justice and equity. Pringle was quoted as saying, "To unite not just our members, but the nation to reclaim public education as a common good, as the foundation of our democracy, and then transform it into something it was never designed to be, a racially and socially just and equitable system. We worked hard to rid ourselves of a tyrannical, deceitful, and corrupt White House, but the reality is that the seeds that were sown during that horrible season continue to germinate," she said, obviously referring to the Trump administration. She continued by vowing to, quote, protect public education and said, "We will fight privatization. We will fight vouchers. We will fight any and all schemes to drain resources from our beloved public schools," appearing to refer to school choice, of course. So she wants to stick with the failed policies of the past. Now, all week long, part of the theme has been, we won't go back. We're not going back. But yet, she wants to go back. She wants to take us back to the failed public education system that her National Education Association has been so fond to support. If it had been doing so well, we would not have parents all across the country calling for school choice. We wouldn't have parents complaining because of the property taxes that they're paying to support public schools, yet they're failing miserably in some cases. We have some great public schools in areas, but we've got some horrible ones too. Public school is not always the best choice depending on the area that you live in. And yes, there are inequities. Yes, there are areas of our nation, just by the nature of it, that public schools are better than other areas. That's true with anything. If you live in a crime-ridden neighborhood in Brooklyn, things are a lot different than if you live in a very ritzy area, let's say like and let's just stick with New York, like the Upper East Side, where you have penthouse suites selling for $15, $20 million. But that's life. To think that we're ever going to be totally equal is foolish. The world has never operated like that. Since the beginning of time, there have been the haves and the have-nots. Our goal is just to try to make it as reasonable as we can without hurting people's ability and hurting people's drive and their will and their just determination to build a better life for themselves and their family. That's the American way. That's the way that has gotten us to where we are today. Pringle previously faced backlash during the pandemic when she raked in over $500,000 while her teachers union was pushing for schools to remain closed and teachers were making a fraction of her high salary. So you see, that's my point. She makes my point. Things are not equal. Ms. Pringle travels around the country talking about the inequities in our school system. I wonder how those teachers felt during the pandemic when they were out of work and she was still bringing in her $500,000 through the teachers union. There's a lot of people who would love to have that type of salary. Another unexpected speaker this week, Oprah Winfrey, wooed the DNC on Wednesday night while bashing GOP nominee Donald Trump. But Ms. Winfrey hasn't always thought Donald Trump was a crook and an opportunist. In a 1988 interview with Winfrey, the celebrity talk show host appeared to be amazed at Americans' fascination with Donald Trump and even described him as a folk hero for being so popular. Winfrey at the time referenced evidently it was some type of concert where she had been present, and so was Donald Trump. She said various celebrities in New York, because it was the opening concert in New York, and there were all kinds of celebrities, very, very famous people coming in to be seated. She said to Trump, when you were seated, you got the loudest applause. She went on to explain that people stood up and roared and cheered when you walked in, she said. Why is that? What is this fascination? She asked Trump. Trump simply replied, I don't know. Maybe I should be a rock star. Oprah then said they thought you were going to moonwalk. After Trump pondered his popularity with Oprah, she also referred to him as a folk hero. Now, this unearthed interview came to light a day after Winfrey made a surprise appearance at the Democrat National Convention, during which she railed against Trump, her so-called former friend. This is just another example of how Democrats treat other people. By the way, also, former Alabama Senator Governor Doug Jones described the Democrat National Convention as electric, as energizing. He said unbelievably, just absolutely extraordinary when Fox News asked him about his experience at the DNC. He said this place has been electric beginning Monday. Then he got a little dig in. He said, on Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz, he said, I'm just glad the Democrats have redeemed football coaches that have gone into politics. Obviously, a jab at his home state's Senator Tommy Tuberville, a former football coach. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself if you're looking for a new appliance to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Now, hey, a quick reminder, tomorrow's the big day. We've been talking about it for about a week and a half now. The Trump Boat Parade on beautiful Lake Kiowee, my home lake, tomorrow at 11 a.m. starting at South Cove County Park. I hope to see you there. And the weather's going to be fabulous tomorrow. The weather has really cooperated with us. Whether you're a boat owner or maybe you just love the water, let me encourage you to come out and celebrate freedom. Come out and celebrate the spirit of America. Again, it kicks off at 11 a.m. Decorate your boat, bring your friends and your family, show your support for President Donald Trump. For additional information, just go to 989WORD.com, 989WORD.com. You can email me directly, joe@joeyhudson.com. Check out my Facebook page. There's information there as well. And you can also just look it up directly. Just search for Trump 2024 Boat Parade, Lake Kiowee, on Facebook. There's a Facebook page there as well. All right, let me give you a quick warning up front. You might want to cover your ears if you have a bit of a queasy stomach. A breakfast for delegates attending the Democrat National Convention was interrupted yesterday morning after maggots were allegedly slipped into their food intentionally, according to WGN. The DNC 2024 Joint Information Center confirmed the incident to the media and acknowledged that there had been an instance of food contamination. Officials said multiple unknown female offenders are alleged to have entered the building and placed unknown objects onto tables containing food. The offenders are believed to have then left the area. One victim was treated and released on the scene. Obviously, this is some form of protest. That's how Democrats roll. As the Democrats make Kamala Harris and Tim Walz their official ticket for president and vice president this week, it's official now. Let the games begin. GOP leaders are working to add further safeguards on the election process in November to avoid some of the questions that were raised in 2020. We just can't let that happen again. With the millions of illegals that the Biden-Harris administration has allowed into the country, there's a growing concern, of course, of what influence these illegals may have in the elections, and the GOP is taking action to ensure that illegals are not allowed to vote. And this is a battle we're going to have to fight, and now's the time to start it. Fortunately, yesterday, in a 5-4 ruling, the Supreme Court gave a partial victory to Republicans trying to enforce proof of citizenship when voting in Arizona, and this could have widespread influence across the country. The court was asked to allow enforcement of sections of Arizona law requiring documented proof of citizenship in order to cast a ballot in the presidential election, including when voting by mail. Now, that's a fair thing, you would think. You would think that in America that you would have to document that you are a U.S. citizen before you vote. But that's just how crazy things are. And the Democrats are fighting this. And other groups, all in the name of equity and inclusion. Oh, we don't want to hurt those aliens' feelings, do we? The Republican Party of Arizona said on August the 15th that it had filed the emergency application pending the appeal from the U.S. Court of Appeals Ninth Circuit in support of HB 2492, a law requiring proof of citizenship to vote in presidential elections. A federal judge had blocked enforcement of the law, which prompted the appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court for temporary relief. The Arizona GOP tweeted, "The Constitution gives states the power to set voter qualifications, and Arizona is leading the charge to ensure only citizens, all caps, vote in our elections. This case has the potential to prevent non-citizen voting once and for all, which should have been the case all along." And that's for sure. This should not even be a question, but it is. So an emergency application for the stay by the Republican National Committee argued that voter integrity is a problem that's gone unchecked, particularly with so many illegal aliens in the country. We know why they're here, don't we? So when it came to the ruling, you had Justice Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch. They would have granted the application in full, meaning they would have stamped it and approved it. But you had Sotomayor, Kagan, Justice Barrett, Justice Jackson. They would have denied it in full. They would not have even considered any of it. So it came down to Justice Roberts and Kavanaugh that provided a compromise of sorts. RNC Chairman Michael Whatley wrote on social platform X after the decision was handed down, "A seismic win in the fight to stop non-citizens from voting." The RNC, of course, had demanded the reinstatement of Arizona's prohibition that prevents registered voters from casting ballots for president or in the mail if they didn't provide citizenship proof, even if they used a federal level form to register where proof is not required. And that's where the partial win comes in. The Supreme Court's decision doesn't allow Arizona to enforce it if, in fact, they register to vote using a federal form. Only if they use the state form, which that's a problem too, but at least they got a partial victory here. If enacted, the Arizona Secretary of State's office estimated it could prevent roughly 42,000 people who have already registered from voting for president this November. The ruling came just ahead of Arizona's ballot printing deadline, enabling the provision to go into effect for this year's election when Arizona is expected to be a critical swing state in the presidential race. The Justice Department has sued over the latter provision as conflicting with federal law, but it has not challenged a portion impacting the state-level forms. So basically, the Justice Department has acknowledged that the state can enforce their state form. They just can't enforce the federal form. Which, my question is, why would they even be allowed to have a federal form anyway? Voter registration is a state issue. There shouldn't be a federal form anywhere for someone to complete that would be sent to a state to register to vote. Of course, the Democrat National Convention was fighting this tooth and nail. Other voting rights groups challenged it as well. The case revolves around claims that the changes are unconstitutional, preempted by federal law, and violate a consent decree that an Arizona official signed back in 2018. After a federal district judge blocked the provisions and an appeal court refused to lift it, the RNC, joined by Arizona's top two Republican state lawmakers, sent it to the Supreme Court asking for an emergency intervention. They urged the justices to stay the lower court's ruling by August 22nd, again, which is the state's ballot printing deadline yesterday, arguing that the state was authorized to make the voter registration changes. The challengers, however, urged the Supreme Court to stay out of the case, insisting that the RNC hadn't cleared their high burden to receive emergency relief. Lawyers for the DNC and other private plaintiffs told the justices that the RNC sat on their hands after losing in the lower court. Basically, they said that they tried to make the case that the RNC had waited to the last minute purposely to file the emergency relief effort. Democrat Arizona state officials, meanwhile, argued that the Supreme Court's intervention would be destabilizing given the short time frame before November's election. At least the court ruled in favor partially. And I'm sorry if 42,000 people, according to the Secretary of State, what they need to do, these 42,000 people, if they're legitimate, if they're really citizens, then they need to take their proof of citizenship to their registration office and make sure that it's right and re-register. It's just that simple if they don't have anything to hide. And if you think that this is not a problem, that illegals aren't voting, the Ohio Secretary of State's office just yesterday referred 138 non-U.S. citizens who were found on the registration rolls and who had voted in a previous election. They sent this to the state's Attorney General office for prosecution. They obviously had broken the law. Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Firmin Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you could trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. On the text line, Caroline says, $4.50 for a dozen eggs? I have never, in all caps, paid this much before. Bidenomics. This should be a campaign advertisement. And she included a copy of her receipt from Dollar General. Caroline, you're right. And when you're listening to the Democrats over the next few weeks as they try to convince us, and as Kamala Harris, and I have to give her credit, last night, she did a great job of delivery, because if you didn't know better, you'd think, wow, this lady is something. She's, we need to listen to her. If you didn't know better, if you didn't know her track record, if you didn't know what she had done, she would have convinced you that there's hope and that she offers that hope. But we know what she's really done. We know what the Biden-Harris administration has done and what she'll do in the future. Pete writes, hey, Joey, I just realized that Jared Kushner, Trump's scummy son-in-law, is nowhere to be seen. I wonder if Trump kicked him to the curb after his Saudi payout. Well, you're right. Jared Kushner has not been seen very much. It's been reported widely that he and the president's daughter have decided that they would sit this campaign out, not because of anything to do with her father, but that they want a private life. They have young children to raise, and they just want out of politics. You can't hardly blame them, can you? Albert says, it's interesting that the mainstream media keeps telling us that the Democrats are ahead in the polls. When the vice president candidate Waltz's speech at the DNC, he referred to his team, the Democrats, as being down by a field goal in the fourth quarter. Is he admitting that the Harris-Waltz team have facts which contradict the media? Look, Albert, we all know that the polls are fleeting. The polls, you can't trust them. If we had believed in the polls in 2016, Trump would have never beaten Hillary. Hillary believed in the polls in 2016. In 2020, the polls were all over the board. Here's what you have to keep in mind with the polls. They're not always accurate. In most cases, they're going to be somewhat close. There hasn't been a recent candidate who has consistently led in poll after poll after poll like Donald Trump has in 2024, even after the Democrats switched their candidate. Texter, let's see, Jennifer says, hey, Joey, it's Jennifer. What is it, or what was it Michelle Obama said about maybe this is a black job? What the heck is she talking about? A black job? What a racist. Have you ever heard a white person say maybe this is a white job? Black racism is apparently okay with Democrats. Well, they have two different standards for sure. Absolutely they do. And if we talked about a white job, they would have been coming down on us like, who was it said, like white on rice? Can I say that? Ray says, hey, Joey, sorry for being gone for a while. After all this time, the COVID finally got me, and at 77, it's been a long road back. Well, Ray, I'm sorry to hear that. Hope you're feeling better, and prayer for a full recovery. Ray says, I was watching some of the DNC, Demonic National Convention, and I wonder if any speaker were to give a speech without lying would be the ground open up and swallow the whole bunch. We must pray that our country turns back to God and he has mercy on us and lets President Trump win. And, you know, Ray, that's our secret weapon, is prayer. Because if we stay on our knees and we pray for Donald Trump, and we can pray for Kamala as well, but we pray for our country. We pray that God leads our nation back to him, and he gives us another chance. That's our only hope. That's our only hope. Faye writes, Joey, the DNC spouts hope and joy. Funny it's giving me nausea and diarrhea. Wake up, Americans, Faye says, before you're broke. The sheriff who spoke last night made me hopping mad. I know. Faye, look, again, you didn't have to watch it. All you had to do is listen to me every day, and I gave you I gave you everything you needed to know. Just a complete roundup of what you needed to know. Because it was tough to watch. I'm going to have to take the weekend off. I'm glad I got the Trump boat parade coming up tomorrow, because that'll give me some time to unwind. Although keeping Mike Gallagher out of the water tomorrow may stress me out as well. Our text of encouragement from Joel. Remember, even though the outside world might be raining, if you keep on smiling, the sun will soon show its face and smile back at you. God bless. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate that. Look, not everybody was happy in Chicago at the DNC. Some Kansas City Chiefs fans are not happy with only being able to see one of the team's 3 preseason games as their final one before the regular season last night against the Chicago Bears wasn't on TV in Kansas City due to the Democrat National Convention. The Chiefs-Bear broadcast in the area, it was set to air on KMCI instead of the usual KSSB, according to reports. However, the DNC was on TV instead of football. And Kansas City is not happy. I talked with you a minute yesterday about some of the states who are going to have abortion, and abortion was covered last night. Kamala Harris made it very clear where she stands and where she thinks her party stands on abortions and what she will do if she's elected president. A number of states are feverishly working to get the question of abortion on their ballots to change their state's constitutions. Arkansas Supreme Court rejected an initiative there. An attempt to put abortion rights on the ballot in Arkansas was rejected by the state Supreme Court. The court ruled yesterday that the group Arkansas Citizens for Limited Government did not comply with state law when gathering signatures for the ballot initiative. And that's been a problem in other states as well. There's been some protests and some questions of the process used to get these ballots or these signatures in order to get on the ballot. Specifically, the Arkansas Supreme Court said that the wrong documentation was submitted for paid canvassers, disqualifying those signatures from being counted. And that's how a lot of these groups got these people to sign them. They paid people to go to them and coerce their signature. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.